Okay, posse, it's coming. The big game is almost here, and we've got a major dilemma. Do we drink wine or beer? Now stay tuned, we'll get it all figured out. This one's going to be both fun and informative. Are you ready? Come on, let's go. Hey there, Posse. I'm Pierre, and welcome to Asti Wine Consultants. Now, in this episode, we'll talk about what we should be drinking during the big game. This is particularly important if you're hosting a party and are responsible for the menu. Actually, my first question is, why wasn't I invited? Regardless, here are 8 to 10 things to consider when making your choice between wine and beer. The first is, and I hope this goes without saying, your personal preference. Ultimately, your choice of beverage should align with your own personal taste. If you enjoy wine and it complements the snacks and the food of the day, there's no reason not to serve it, even if beer is presented as the mainstream choice. Now, on a similar note, it's the guest preference. Consider the preferences of your guest. Are they more likely to enjoy wine or beer? Actually, you can provide a selection of both, actually to accommodate the various tastes. I'll get into that in a little bit more detail in just a minute. Something else you might want to consider is the food you'll be serving. Wine can pair well with certain dishes, especially if you're serving a variety of appetizers or a more comprehensive or sophisticated menu. Now, beer is often a natural choice for classic game day fares like burgers and wings and nachos. But if you're putting out a charcuterie board with a variety of meats and cheeses and veggies, or even grilling some steaks or kebabs, then why not break out some wine? Something else you might want to consider is what kind of atmosphere do you want to try to create? Beer is often seen as more casual and is a common choice for these kinds of parties. Wine may add a touch of sophistication or elegance, which could be fitting for more upscale gatherings. How are you doing there? Are you going with wine or beer for the big game? Let me know in the comments below. Now, something else you might need to consider is you might want to consider your budget. Now, generally speaking, beer is going to be less expensive than wine. However, I suppose you could do jug or box wine. Personally, I don't recommend that if you're interested in drinking or providing wine with any kind of flavor or character. But if it's just friends, what the heck? Do what you want. There are some pretty good box, I'm not going to say jug wines, but there are some pretty good box wines out there. However, while we're talking about budget, if you've been around for any period of time, you know that I enjoy finding the best wines in the world under $15, actually under $12 to $15. You can't go wrong there. Now, this sort of leads us to the next thing to consider. What's readily available and convenient to serve? If you have a wine collection or a stash of wine or a nearby wine shop or a grocery store with a good wine selection, then go for it. If not, beer is usually easier to get a hold of. Also, you'll want to consider and be sensitive to the alcohol tolerance of your guest. Typically, beer has a lower alcohol content than wine, so you might be safer, and it might be a safer choice for those who want to pace themselves during the course of the long game. Now, generally, the game is 4 to 5 hours long when you consider the halftime and all of those funny commercials. Now, continuing our list of things to consider, depending on where you live, there may be cultural or regional preferences. This game is widely celebrated with viewers from all over the world. Take into account any cultural or regional preferences for wine or beer that may be relevant to your guests. Now, generally speaking, friends and guests from France, Italy, Spain, say California, and maybe the Northeast lean towards wine. Friends from Germany and England, Ireland, and Australia, along with those from the Midwest and from the South, are generally going to be beer drinkers. Now, as you put all this together, and if you have a few extra dollars laying around, you can opt to offer a whole variety of different beverages, including wine and beer, spirits, several non-alcoholic options. Depending on the size of your get-together and knowing the preferences of your friends, do a couple different domestic beers, including something like a Coors and one of the 10,000 craft beers out there. You'll also want to do an international beer. Now, for wine, you'll be safe with a Chardonnay and or a Sauvignon Blanc for whites, and a Cabernet and a Chianti for reds. Now, the Chianti is going to be a little bit more versatile than the Cab. A lot more people are going to like it a little bit better because it's a little bit softer. Now, when it comes to your spirits, obviously bourbon, like a nice Varchus, and even an everyday bourbon like a Jim Beam. Now, for me, if I'm not drinking wine, then it's rum. For a nicer rum, I go with one of the Zacapas, or you could do an everyday rum like a Bacardi. Now, with a variety, your guests can choose whatever they prefer. Well, there you have it. In the end, there's no hard and fast rule. The most important thing that you or your friends can do is have a great time and enjoy the game. So whatever you choose to serve, whether it's wine, beer, or a combination of it all, make sure that it fits the atmosphere and the preferences of your party crowd. Have a great time, and let me know how it turns out. Until next time, cheers.